have some mystical prophetic transmissions this morning. I found myself traveling into the gene key synthesis, into the 19th gene key spontaneously, and this is about the change that we humans are moving through right now, the great change. And the founder of human design system, Ra, who he had a lot of insights, profound insights about these keys, placing them in the human design body graph. And one of the things that he came out with is that there would be a split in this place in our genetics between the 19th, what he calls the 19th gate, and the 49th gate. Those of you who know human design, you'll know about that. If you don't, it doesn't matter. And this forms a channel in our circuitry, in our biocircuitry. And that channel has to do with many things, but it ultimately has to do with our ancestry, and it has to do with our relationship to resources. And you can see resources as in basic resources like food and oil and coal and wood, things like that keep us alive in the physical form. But also spiritual resources as well, emotional resources, emotional needs, the need to be touched, the need to reach out and be supported and be part of what it is to be human, to feel that you have connections. And the prediction that Ra made was that there would be a division in this channel that would shake the whole species. And essentially that's because at the other end of this channel lies the 49th gene key, and the 49th gene key is related in the codon ring to the 55th, right? So this is all technical if you know gene keys, and it doesn't matter if you don't. Anyway, and in the gene key system, in the dream arc, which is a part of where we ascribe the different creatures to each code, to each key, which adds other layers of archetypal insight, the 19th gene key, is the camel. Okay. And so it got me thinking, a stream of consciousness, and I went into the idea of the camel, and then the saying of Christ, it is easier for a rich man to enter into heaven. It is easier for a camel to enter through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Right? Very mysterious thing, and many people have spoken about it. Anyway, so I had some profound insights about that connected to this gene key. That 19th gene key is about, its shadow is about the fear of lack. That's what it drives us. That's what drives the whole shadow frequency, that we don't have enough. We don't have enough resources. And what that does is that makes us go out, and it makes us become aggressive. And sometimes it makes us kill. And that's part of our ancestral story. We kill others, we kill because we want to hold on to the territory. And we kill animals because we want to eat them, because we want to survive in the physical body. So there's a deep fear of lack and a scarcity that drives us. And it's also, this idea of the camel going through the eye. Our civilization is driven primarily by this fear, the fear of, it creates the competition between countries, between nations, between tribal gene pools, between all of us. Especially when the chips are down and there's a survival situation and fear comes up to the surface, those divisions become even stronger. And fear moves through the gene pool like a virus. So there's something going on in this place in our DNA about the fear of lack. what we're being shown and given the opportunity is to transcend that fear. And that means that we have to transcend some really basic human things that we've always connected to. And one of those is touch, right? Because the 19th gene key also, its gift is sensitivity. And higher sensitivity is where we reach out and we touch not just with our hands, but through our energy body, through our higher dimensional body. So we can touch dimensions that we've never touched before. And, you know, as we reach out with the higher reaches of this gene key. And what that does is it breaks this need for physical touch, because there's a higher version of touch available, the aura touch. Like when you go and sit with a teacher, a great master, you go and sit in what they call satsang. And satsang is when you sit within the field of the master. And you don't need to touch the master, because the field is enough. That is the higher touch. And it breaks the need for the codependence, which is the shadow of the 19, because that higher touch feeds us at a much deeper level. And it also allows us to transcend, you know, many things. You know, the need for attention from others, the need for, you know, emotional, for love, ultimately, the need to feel love, because suddenly that abundant being inside us that pours out through that belly button inside us, you know, because the eye of the needle is that tiny, tiny, tiny little hole, that wormhole at the core of our being. We have to pass through that wormhole at the core of our being. It's actually in the core of every cell of our being, but its physical location is in the belly button. It's the tiniest, infinitesimal point. We have to pass through that wormhole. And if we can pass through that wormhole, when we pass through it, we discover in there unlimited, superabundant resources. You know, light that pour, you know, it's the light of being. It's the superabundance of being, of joy, our natural state, pouring out of that. Now we have to move through a lot of shadow stuff to get to that. But that's the journey. And that's why, in that saying, it's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven, is because if you are scrabbling around on the surface for resources out of a fear of lack, you know, and you're building up resources out of a fear of lack, whether you're doing it addictively because you want to get more and more and more, or whether you are genuinely, you know, hungry, you know, there's this craving in us, there's this need to feed the physical, and yet there's this higher potential hidden in humans that we can be fed by other streams of information, that we can actually one day be fed through energy alone. And so this is the shift that's taking place in our DNA. You know, it's like we are changing as a species. We're changing. There's a break that's taken place. There's a splitting in our DNA, a splitting off in this part of us. And it's creating a new architecture, a new kind of human being. And the other thing to connect in here into this stream and this transmission is that this is all linked to the 55th gene key and the 59th gene key, which are the other place where this huge shift is occurring. The 55th is about freedom. It's the release of freedom. And the 59 is about intimacy. And this is where you come into this notion of touch, because as that light is released into our aura, that radiance, that superabundant energy that pours through us, we realize that intimacy changes. You know, there's a higher form of intimacy that actually doesn't require physical touch. In fact, it is ultimately hugely more rich without physical touch. It's like when you go, there's this wonderful diver, a woman called Tanya Streeter, and she's just this incredible kind of mermaid diver, like professional free diver, and she swims a lot with wild creatures. And I was watching a video on her one day, and swimming with whale sharks, and she was talking about after, and she said, you must never break the touch barrier with these creatures, because if you break the touch barrier, you've almost broken that higher sensitivity where you're connected. And and a lot of the tourists go in and they want to touch the dolphins, but actually, unless the creature comes to you, you never break the touch barrier, because there's this kind of subtle stream of communication that takes place without touch. Now, I'm a modern human. I love touch, right, and physicality and all of that. And what I'm saying is that there's a high dimensional one coming online. And it's interesting, isn't it, that that's the way our species is going through the internet. There's no need to touch so much anymore. I mean, there may be the need physically, but actually that's what we're doing. And even now, where we're self-isolating, and we're realizing that we can't touch each other. But it's part of this splitting that's taking place in our species, because it's opening up this potential for a higher form of touch. So we have to go in through that eye of the needle. We have to go inwards, deep into our inner being. It takes courage, because we have to let go of all the distractions out there. It's like looking for it out there, looking for the answer in people, in science, in love, in relationship, looking, always looking. And the answers are all inside, and we've all been told this for millennia. It's inside by the sages. And we go into that eye of the needle, and then we discover everything. Ultimate riches and wealth. So the future relationships are going to look very different, because they won't require physical touch. They can have physical touch. They can celebrate physical touch. Physical touch can be a part of it. But the highest form of freedom is to be able to travel outside one's body with one's awareness. And that is the realization that we are not these physical beings. We are far more than these physical beings. We are interdimensional beings. And that our awareness can travel far, far, far. And it moves right into the core of another being. There's a level of intimacy that most of us can't even envisage. Being that transparent, being right inside another person's being at every level, without the need for physical touch. And as I said, I'm not saying that there won't be physical touch, but I'm saying that there's a transcendence coming, and it's filled with fruits and riches that will open up a new era for us as humans. And of course, then as we move to that, there is this splitting also of human reaction into those who will react out of the old survival strategies of the fear of scarcity and lack, and those who will move with the new energies, and go within and find the deep resources inside and connect. Instead of building bunkers, we'll build community. We'll build these streams, these heartstrings that connect us, so we can find a higher level of support and nourishment, instead of segregating ourselves off into little fear bunkers, of survival. Because ultimately, in the higher reaches of that 19th gene key, the siddhi is sacrifice. And so we have to sacrifice our fear of death. We have to sacrifice that illusion that this is all there is. And that knowing that we're an eternal being then allows us to transcend all those physical needs that we have to even keep the body alive. Because at that higher level, it doesn't even matter. I mean, at the highest level, because we transcend it anyway. So even if the body dies, survival is less important than connection to others, than love, because we survive. There is no death, and these are all insights coming out of this 19th gene key and its connections in our circuitry. There's more to the story, but these are just some things for us to contemplate now. So enjoy contemplating them.